With our referrals, it's something like 2.4 times higher conversion rate than any other channel we do.
Hey, my guest on this episode of B2B Marketing with me, Dave Gerhardt, is Michael Cole. He's SVP of Marketing at Everflow. Everflow is a partner marketing platform that helps companies manage their referral and affiliate programs. They've done $23 million in revenue, completely bootstrapped. They have 1,100 customers.
As your brand reputation gets bigger, as you go to the same conferences and people start talking about you, the word of mouth is like extremely strong.
Michael was their first marketing hire 6 years ago when the company was just 15 people. Today, now his marketing team alone is bigger than that, 16 people.
That human touch is the easiest way to distinguish yourself against incumbents.
We talk about what it's really like being a first-time marketing leader, building a marketing function from scratch, and how Everflow grew primarily through turning happy customers into referral partners. Here's my conversation about startup marketing in B2B with Michael Cole.
1, 2, 3, 4. Exit.
All right, Michael Cole, good to see you. Thank you for coming on this podcast. So are you an Exit 5 member?
I am not. I joined during the Facebook.
All right, well, I got to go. We got to hang out. Sorry, Everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to this episode.
Right, thanks, everyone.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe you will be. You should join our CMO club. That would be a good fit for you. So anyway, we have a community of 5,000 members, B2B marketing pros. We also do this podcast, and this podcast is like the tip of the spear for us. And you sent me an interesting note. You've been at this company, Everflow, for 6 years. Joined the company. The team was 15 people when you joined. You were the first full-time marketing person. Today, company's grown to 20 plus million ARR. You're a real big boy marketer now. you got a team. I've been through this. Yeah. You got a team of marketers that's bigger than the company was when you joined. And so, I thought it'd be fun. I said, yeah, let's have this podcast. I thought it'd be fun to dive into like what's happened over the last 6 years. What is that evolution like? And let's do that. So maybe let's start and rewind by talking about first. Let's set the context. Like, what does Everflow do? What does your company do?
Yeah, so Everflow is a partner marketing platform, and we allow you to have tracking and attribution for all your partnerships. The general tagline, especially the B2B tagline, right now we really just focus on the serving the affiliate marketing segment because it's a really old, proven segment. There's a lot of money there, and there's a lot of very old companies where we can be taking market share from.
And what like, give me rough, I think I mentioned 20 plus million ARR, but how many people are at the company today? Roughly what stage, like where are things at today?
Yeah, so we're a completely bootstrapped company. So it's been a really exciting run. We don't have investors. The founders had sold their last company. They threw some money at the beginning, and we've been profitable ever since. They closed, when they started this company, one of their first clients was closing their former bosses at the old company, which brought in the subscription revenue to allow them to grow from there, which is the ultimate hack is close where you just worked from.
Oh, because did they get a bunch of affiliates from that company, or are you saying like that was the first company that became like the first flagship customer?
Yeah, so it was the first flagship customer. And if we go back, so basically they started Mula Media, which was a mobile ad network. And in the very early days of mobile. And then they built that up. It got acquired by Opera/Ad Colony. And then the technology that they built at that company was being used internally, but it was starting to get really creaky and fall apart. So when they started Everflow, they built a new platform for all the tracking. They learned a lot of lessons along the way that they built it better the second time. And then their first like big flagship customer was closing Ad Colony. And that brought in a lot of early clients. It meant that they immediately got profitable. And so we've been able to like organically grow from there. So that's sort of the background. And then right now we're at 98 people, 24 million in revenue. We have no investors, so I can be completely transparent about all our numbers, which is really fun.
Yeah, that is fun. And 24 million, 100 people. That's a good business.
It is. Yeah, it's a nice high margin business.
And to bootstrap a company to get to $24 million, that'd be fun. All right. So what was the state of the company when you joined? Let's talk about like being the first marketing hire. How did you get to this company? Did they hire you to run marketing? Were you more of like a junior-ish marketing person? Like for me, I often tell the story on this podcast about like I worked at this company Drift, and I became VP of marketing, and I ran marketing over time, but they didn't hire me to run marketing. I was just a guy that they hired to like help do stuff and start getting some traffic and getting some leads and making things happen. And then 4.5 years later, I became the VP of marketing. What's your path been?
Yeah. So prior to Everflow, I was at another mobile ad network company, and the founders of Everflow came in. The product wasn't quite done yet. They had a whiteboard. They were drawing out the whiteboard about why Everflow would solve all of our problems at that company. And I'd used the competitor products. So I was immediately a believer because the competitors were all pretty miserable to use back in the day. That was when I first met them. And then when that company was falling apart, as many startups do, I started consulting for a few different companies. And one of those companies, I was going to launch a new mobile ad network. And I started with using Everflow, which now had a full product. And so I was customer number 23 of Everflow, got a sweetheart deal because they hadn't figured out their pricing model. So it was very low risk on all sides. And I managed to scale it up to about like 7 million in revenue from that mobile ad network side. They were looking to make their first marketing hire. We were hanging out at lots of different conferences. They floated the idea. And the problem with mobile ad networks is you make a lot of money in the good times when advertisers are spending a lot of money. And then on the bad times, everything drops off. It's like a roller coaster. And I really wanted to get into SaaS. So I was excited to join Everflow. I gave the 2-month notice. I had a lot of tears because I actually liked my team, but I really want to get the SaaS side. But when I joined Everflow, obviously, like I'd been a customer for 2 years. I knew the product inside and out. It was a really awesome situation to grow it.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing little hack. There's a bunch of founders that listen to this podcast, and if you can do it, I'll get messages from founders often. Hey, I'm looking for, I want to hire the first DG, or want to hire the Michael Cole, my company. And you made me think of, there's an interesting playbook, which is like, can you find a power user of your of your product, right? And so for you to come in and you were the ideal customer, how to use the product, that is a tremendous advantage from a from a product marketing standpoint. Just can be weird, like stealing a customer,
Yeah,
stealing the person from your customer. But
it definitely has to be done carefully and make sure that everyone is understanding. And like we kept my former company as a client until they just uh, closed off that division this month. So it lasted quite a long time.
all right, so when you joined, there's kind of not there was no revenue, right? Not a lot of revenue.
They went up
Okay.
really quickly because they basically closed the first flagship. All
Sure.
the other companies that were also like, again, like it was a market where no one was really happy with
Yeah.
the current solutions. So when they got that flagship, people started hearing about it. People started signing up. So it already achieved some pretty good revenue. It was like, I think like 1.5 million ARR at that point or something.
Right, but it basically had it been entirely through like founder led sales at that point. There's
Correct.
no real
They just
marketing.
added their first salesperson like 4 months before I joined.
Okay, so take me into, what did you do? There's a lot of people that are, they want to leave their job and go get a new marketing job at a new startup, or first time head of marketing, or taking on, joining a 10, 15 person startup. Like, how do you figure out what to do? Take me into the, if you can rewind 6 years ago, let's try to unpack some of the playbook here.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think in the early days, it's really just about like plugging all the holes that need fixing. So obviously the website needed fixing just because it was like a 3-page website. And so it needed a lot of writing and focus there. So a lot of that took time. The conferences, we needed to actually have someone organizing our conferences. We started doing events with customers at those conferences like right away. And then I wrote a lot of help desk articles to just like fill in all of the basic details and make sure that it was a little bit more like user friendly. So the very beginning is just a rush of like, where are all the burning fires? It just needs like an extra 25% attention to be good.
Hey, what about setting goals though, right? Like, it's easy to just kind of come in and just like put out fires, but you need to develop a strategy. You need to develop some direction that you're going in. How did you start to develop the marketing strategy?
Yeah, I would say that it was less about developing the marketing strategy more than just getting an understanding of like what was really happening to the whole company. So I remember going to like David Scott had a like he has a blog that's really excellent called For Entrepreneurs, and he was talking about he had just done a session about like what do you do in your first 90 days. So I was taking all of the like reporting and data and then putting it into a spreadsheet with the bookings of how many customers we were getting per month. And so even if we had no growth from marketing, I was the first one to actually show them the growth that was already there in a very clear way on a spreadsheet of like, here's how we're going month by month. Here's what's working. So I think that even before you actually do that, like if the company has some product market fit, really just letting the CEO know how much is growing and like what channels is growing actually goes pretty far before you even start choosing channels to grow.
Right. So, I mean, in this case, you're already at 2 million in revenue, but basically nobody's measuring or tracking everything. And so instead of just coming in and doing more, you were the first person to like clean up the house and organize the pantry a little bit.
And then from doing that, like the obvious thing pretty early on that we've always made like our core focus was referrals was the way that we grew the business and how could we empower more referrals. So then you get to the point of like there's two things. So one of them is just formally building a referral program for customers, being like, hey, you're a happy customer. You know why our product is better than the alternatives. Is there anyone else in the industry that you would recommend use Everflow? And that is an incredibly powerful engine of just getting happy customers to refer business. That was like the biggest growth channel. And then it's doing events and stuff to make them feel special.
Was it an email? Like you just emailed every customer at a certain point that message?
One of the big advantages Everflow had from the beginning and has made my job really easy is that at the same time that I joined, we already had, I think, 3 or 4 customer success people that were all excellent, that were doing a lot of onboarding. And so much of like the success of marketing and our growth has come from customer success, which is just we made more effort to make customers feel heard, to get their features into our feature request queue. And we did a lot of stuff to make them feel special on the customer success side. And that made the sort of evangelical customer that wanted to refer more business. So at that point, it was really like, okay, CS, who are your happy customers? Can you talk about the referral program? Here's all the information that they need. Is there anything we can do to sort of like support them? So
Yeah, I love that. It's so funny. We talk so much about like hacks and strategies and tools and this not, and it's like, wait a second, you found this pocket of things at your company. It's like we have a really good product, customers like it. We have a customer success team that kicks ass. Let's ask them to get more referrals. Like there's so much like we've overcomplicated marketing at so many levels, and it's like the restaurant down the street or the tire shop that put my snow tires on, like the guy who runs that shop is like, hey, tell your friends if you need anything, you need anybody, like we'll put new tires on the car. And it's like, have you done that for your SaaS company? Like simplify. Let's get in a room and let's make a list of like the simple ways we can grow. So and that's also one that I feel like people are not likely to. We kind of have this false belief of like, well, I'm not, I don't refer anybody to anything, but I have found that marketing is one of those things where like, if you ask, you just got to ask for referrals. Like if you ask 10 people, even if you get 2 or 3 people that are willing to do it, that is free marketing.
yeah, it's insane. And when you get it running, it gets even more amazing because as the referral program scaled, it became the tool that the entire team started using. So now sales keeps relationships with like customers they close and then builds like rapport to get referrals out of that newly closed customer. The engine becomes really powerful. I mean, obviously, like it still requires like a product that has happy customers. But when you have that, like it actually can be a tool of like half your team to sort of like build their own book of business on top in a very authentic way.
Okay, so early tactic number 1 was you had a bunch of successful customers, ask them to go and tell their friends about it. What else? Or give me early tactic number 2.
Yeah, so very early on, so we have one big advantage, which is like in the affiliate marketing world, there's like a couple major conferences. So it's really easy to know like what are the conferences that are our ideal ICP from day one. But we started doing happy hours there very early on, have a customer split the cost with us. It was very affordable. We did small events at smaller venues to start. And it was just that every time those conferences would come up, they would know there would be an Everflow party there. So it's sort of like they feel like a part of a special club too. Again, like this is the sort of thing that makes people passionate enough to be like, actually, like, let me recommend my other like buddy or the other person I talked to.
Did you have a booth at these events, or was it just your play was like, we're going to go to these events and Everflow is going to be known for hosting a great party?
Yeah, we had a small booth. We always did the cheapest booth. And the nice thing about this is it had like a single day booth or then the 3-day booth. And even now, like I still, being 3 days at Expo Hall is like painful. So we try to like minimize the booth past 1 day.
Okay, so tactic number 2 would be there's a bunch of, I'm just trying to replay this. Like I like simplifying things. So find out where our customers are. In your world, everybody in this affiliate world is going to these handful of events every year. Let's go do something interesting there. Right? I like this because right away it's like we did parties at events. We asked customers for referrals instead of like, yeah, we started a blog and we started a newsletter, which is like what everyone talks about. And there's this slow growth. What did you do at the party? Tell me about the play of the party. Like you just host a party, buy everybody drinks, and that ends up people buying from Everflow, or was there some type of activation?
Nope, that was pretty much it. Like it was really, I mean, it's like don't overthink it. You just want to have a happy place where you invite like your customers, you have some prospects invited, everyone's just happy. You get this awesome word of mouth that starts going where people start talking about like, oh, were you at the Everflow party yesterday? Oh, like, and as we like the years progress, like at those conferences, more and more you would just hear people mentioning Everflow as they were walking around because like our brand got better, we got more well known, and there was a lot of people that were like, oh, did you go to the Everflow party? So it created like a lot of word of mouth. And this is like, for reference, these conferences are like 6,000 people. So like they're pretty large, but they're not like gigantic. It's so hard to remember half these things. I think it was just that.
Hey, do I have to wake you up? Do I have to wake you up? You pitched me. You said, let me come on your podcast. You got to do more than this, brother. Come on.
I'm trying to think about the early days. I will say that as we started to scale, like one of the things that I really appreciate from especially your podcast back in the day in the Privy days, just how much you talked about like team structure. I think that this was one of the things that as we scaled, it was so helpful to know like, oh, like no one should ever have more than 5 direct reports. And you keep building your team. And a CMO is someone who manages people that manage people. Like that helped me so much. And it's one of the most important lessons is like, as you start to see success, you want to figure out what are the different levers of scaling that make that work. And now with like our CS team, they're like, how do you know how to build a team so well? And it's because like, I have to give it like all credit to your podcast. That was the first place where I really understood like what is the proper structure of a marketing team. So in even the early days, it was always like the thought of like, how do I add people and make sure that I'm not overextending myself?
Well, thank you for that. I think that I'm not even great at it. I just think that I work for this guy at Drift called David Cancel. He's the CEO. And he was just like it was very liberating because he was like, make it up. He would say, make it up, nephew, make it up. Like everybody, I think people get too caught up on like, okay, the marketing team structure. Now I'm Michael Cole. I'm a one-man show, and now we got 3 people, and I got to over architect the team. Like in the early days, you don't need too much structure is bad. But eventually, as you grow, instead of thinking about necessarily the perfect roles, you need to think about like, what are I like the jobs to be done framework for your marketing team. Like, what are the things we need to do? And so like at Drift, it was like, oh, our content is really good and content is a big driver for us. Okay. So we need like content. Yep. That's one team. Social media is like a big part of that. Okay. Well, content and social make sense together. And then we got product marketing over here. And then we got this other team we're going to call, like customer growth or something. And I just did a podcast with this guy last week called Gurdeep Dillon. He's the CMO at Content Stack, and he just was telling me about how he's like at every company he's been at, you just make up the pods. Like stop obsessing over like product marketing, demand gen, digital marketing. Like who's on your team? What are you trying to accomplish? Put people into pods. And when I was at Drift, the founders David and Elias, they came from HubSpot, and they had this kind of like revolutionary way of setting up a product and engineering team where they'd have like 3 engineers, a product manager, and a designer. And that was like a pod of 5 people that was working on solving some challenge. And I love that as a framework for marketing, because there's so much in marketing. There's so many times that like it's very hard to just put someone in a perfect box, and you need to share resources. And like there's a lot of overlap. And so I think you just need to, this is part of the creative job of running a marketing team, is like, let's sit down, let's map out all the things we're trying to do as a company. Let's map out the people we have, who do we need, and let's try to bucket them all together. And then each team needs a team leader. That doesn't necessarily mean that that person's a VP or a director or even a head of. It could be a manager, it can be an intern, but someone has to be like the one. I wish there was a softer analogy for this, but like, do you need like the one throat to choke for each? I'm sorry for that analogy, but for each piece of it, because you need to figure out like who's going to share updates on this, how are we tracking towards our goals on this. And so I think that's stuff that I think earlier in my career, when I was on the other side of management, I used to roll my eyes at, but I've now learned that like, man, that is a huge part of the job, is organizing the team in the right way. Is no different than a sports team where like a key role inside of the organization is a general manager, and figuring out like who's on the roster and who's going to do what. Yeah. So how do you have the team structured now? So you got 15 people on the team. Maybe let's dive into the team structure today, and that'll give us some more to riff on.
I also can talk about like the early days with like paid ads if you want to cover that too, because I think it's pretty interesting.
Let's talk about that first. Then let's talk about more tactics that like, got you from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6. What tactics worked, and then we can get into the team today. So yeah, so paid was a big channel.
Early days of the company, I think we were getting maybe 100 leads per month, so pretty good even in the early days. But one of the things that was challenging was I had very few levers to actually scale up leads. Like we were getting leads and we were closing a lot of customers from them because it was a lot of referral. There was a lot of word of mouth. It was very strong for that. A lot of like organic is really just like brand and word of mouth from what I've seen. Whereas like it looks like it's all content organic, but really the people that are coming in that are actually requesting the demos tend to have like heard about you from someone else. So I thought that's pretty interesting. But as like the marketing leader, like you need leads to go up to hit your goals and to look effective. And so it took a while before I could actually get approved a paid ad budget. And then of course, like once we turn on paid ads, like suddenly we have 200 leads more a month. So really easy to hit all your lead curves. But I think maybe that first year of running leads or something, you had something like 1,200 leads. And of that, we generated 15 customers total or something, which paid for itself in the long term. But again, like there's the thing is like referrals and word of mouth are like so efficient, and paid ads are like the opposite. You get lots of noise and leads, a lot of junk leads, etc., and then very few customers. And with the paid ad stuff, like the whole strategy on that side is just making sure like, how do I get rid of all the noise? How do I get rid of all the generic Gmails, the people in wrong countries, etc.? Like you have to just keep cutting all of the stuff that Google Ads wants to send you, because we mostly did Google Ads. And it was just one of those things where it's like, you're really just telling them like, hey, this is a good lead versus a bad lead. And you're constantly cutting down all the bad lead sources and feeding into Google Ads. Like, this is what a proper lead looks like. Please stop sending me the rest.
So was paid not a good channel? Is that what you're saying?
No, it was ROI positive, but just barely. But it was one of those things where it's so much noise. But like from the marketing leader's perspective, like all of a sudden I was hitting all my lead goals and the company was happy about it. But it was a long time to sort of like keep optimizing it to not send junk for it to actually be like a really good revenue channel, which took like 2 or 3.
If you're hitting your lead goals, but it's junk, how are you hitting your lead goals?
Yeah. So it's just it's the early days of companies where like those lead goals are still not fully understood. And so
you don't have a clear, I've been there too. Like you don't have a clear ICP yet. It's almost more of a volume game. And so you're just trying to like sort through the shit, get a ton of volume in the doors, sales. You kind of have 3 to 5 sales reps. They're just going to manually hunt through all the leads, make calls. You're still kind of, I feel like that is still searching for product market fit phase. Even if you're at 2, 3, 4, 5 million in revenue, you just have inbound coming in, but it's not efficient yet. You're not necessarily like for every 100 leads, 100 leads that are going to come in, you got to kind of sort through them, and maybe 25 or 30 of them are going to be high quality, and those are the ones you're going to work.
Yeah, and it's part of the nature, especially with Google Ads. I think even now we still get like 300, 400 leads from Google Ads a month, and it generates like 5 customers. And that it now is very profitable for us. Like it's a very profitable channel, but you're always going to get so much noise from Google Ads because most people are not, they will request a demo before they have any buyer intent, or they will think it's like, hey, I don't have to pay any money. Can I just get a free version of the platform? So you get a lot of noise no matter what the Google Ads. It's just really making sure that you are getting those opportunities and you're really optimizing towards, and you can do this as you get more sophisticated with the system, is you can tell Google Ads like, less generic leads, more MQLs, more SQLs, and Google Ads will then actually start sending you more of those if you put a value on it. Like there's a lot of stuff you can do later on, but no matter what with Google Ads, you're always going to get a lot of noise.
But you have to be willing. It sounds like a cheat code where you can say, get me more of my good fit customers, but they all have a price. And so are you willing to spend $30 a click on a high intent looking person that you might not know converts or not?
But it's important for marketers to have those like big flashy things in the early days, because as we transition, it went from lead goals to revenue goals for me. And then it became much easier because I could focus on like the real channels that hit revenue. But in the early days, like it's natural for a CEO to just sort of want like what levers are we using to grow faster? And we want to test those out and see how they work. And so leads make sense in the very early days.
And what's your relationship with paid marketing now that the company has scale?
I mean, we do Google Ads heavily. It's a very like ROI effective. We've never made any of the other channels work, like Facebook and LinkedIn. We'll get lots of leads, but none of them end up becoming customers. And the way that I look at our dashboards, we use HubSpot and our own internal tools, is like what drives customers. And if I'm not seeing any customers ever coming from like social or LinkedIn, et cetera, eventually we just say like, let's just stop doing this. It doesn't matter how many prospects and opportunities. If none of those are becoming customers ever, it's not an effective channel for us.
There's a whole pocket of, I guess, I get it. I haven't been at a company that has had to spend a significant amount of our budget on paid, because the two companies that I've been at, from a marketing perspective, we had strong organic marketing. But then there's a bunch of people. I wonder if he listens. There's this guy that's in our Exit5 community, and he's on LinkedIn, called Evan Weber, and he's a LinkedIn ads guy. And basically, anytime I write about anything on organic, he's like, "Yeah, but if you're doing organic plus paid, it would be 1 + 1 = 3." And so there are definitely ways to amplify it. AdWords is one that hurts my brain a little bit to think about. There's been a bunch of debates recently I've seen about spending on your own branded terms. Like that one seems crazy for me. Like you spend on, you rank number one. If somebody Googles Everflow or Exit5, we rank number one for that term. But then also we're going to spend money. So when someone searches for Everflow, we're going to show up first. But why? That costs money. That you're going to get that click anyway. There's just like crazy things like that I've never understood. And please don't come at me in the DMs after this, because paid is not my thing. I'm happy to hire someone who's great at paid to do that. But AdWords is just one that, man, I don't know. I even as a consumer, if I'm looking for a pair of shoes, I'm still not clicking on the sponsored link.
Yeah, but you're looking for those people that are like in that research mode where they're just like, I need what else is out there. And when they search for the generic terms, which is really like, that's part of Google Ads too, is like what has buyer intent. So for us, it's like affiliate marketing software. It makes sense. That's the person looking for a solution that may not have heard of us. And so we actually see that when you run that stuff, you get a lot of extra organic traffic. You get a lot of other channels like ranking up. So there's definitely some lifting of all boats, but going back to the branded keywords, like it seems ridiculous to me too, because we're in a B2B space. There's only so many solutions out there. And by the time you can look up our brand, you must know something about us. And if you're not going to give us a shot after that, we probably don't, like, you probably are going to be a bad customer that's going to churn.
Okay, so that was paid lessons. There's a lot of noise to separate through. That's the biggest takeaway. What about like building predictable and repeatable channels? I think for me, as a first-time head of marketing at a fast-growing company, it was like the more noise we made, the more product launches that we did, the more, we made our own momentum, and that drove growth. But I was always kind of looking for more predictable, repeatable growth levers? What's your experience been?
Yeah, I mean, I think that some of this stuff just sort of works out when you're sort of not doing the like the thing with campaigns is like those are great for like those little bursts and they excite people. Like those are effective. But at the end of the day, you end up sort of with like the things that are just naturally repeatable, which would be like as your brand reputation gets bigger, as you get go to the same conferences and people start talking about you, the word of mouth is like extremely strong. That makes organic feel repeatable because we always have leads coming in every month because people are always discovering us for the first time. That's like the first phase. And to sort of go back to like what the marketing org is now is that like the marketing team on my side is actually like relatively small, like 6 people. And then we have the full partnership team under it, which is all of our referral program, our agency program, all of that side. And that's as big a part of like what is a repeatable growth, which is like, as I was saying before, you turn your customers into referral partners, extremely effective. As we got more mature, we started providing compensation up front, which is send us a qualified lead, we'll pay you 250 right away, and then we'll pay you when they become a customer. So there's things you can do like that to sort of really accelerate the with referrals, it's really about being inertia. So anything you can do to sort of get them to take that extra 5 minutes to recommend you, super powerful. And then you have all of the other sort of like agency partners and stuff like that that become that repeatable engine. So I like them all under marketing because all the partnership stuff, the best first win is going to be co-marketing. So it's doing fireside chats, it's doing events together, etc. Because partnerships, you want to have that quick win too. So it makes sense for us that partnerships and marketing are like hand in hand.
Yeah, I found that partnerships, like, it's got to be the right fit. It's got to be like a complementary offering, because I think oftentimes partnerships and co-marketing is like a code word for like, can I spam your list of, can I get your contact list after, let's do a co-webinar together and I'll get 1,000 people that I can email and you'll get 1,000 people that you can email. But like, if you have a peanut butter and jelly combination, like you're a website platform and you don't have an email product and you're going to partner up with an email product. So in the Everflow example, what were some of the, you're an affiliate solution. What were some of the good fit partners? What did they do? What did they do? How did they complement what you did?
Yeah, our best ones are the ones that have the win-win situation. So these are like agencies and publishers where they can both sell their own services to a potential client and say like, to work with me, you need to use Everflow. So that's the easiest. Like if you find those referral partners, it's awesome because they both make money directly from the client or whoever they're selling to, and they're referring business to you, so they're getting paid by you. So now it's twice as much money for them, and they can do it day in, day out as like a focus. So that's the ideal referral partner. And then the second one is just any tech partnership where you are an essential solution to them, or they're like vice versa, which for us was like in the early days payment solution. So you need to pay out your affiliates. We had integrated payment partners. We sent a ton of business to that payment solution. And in response, they sent a bunch of customers to us.
Where are you going to invest next year? What are you investing in now?
Yeah, the thing that worked the best this year and puts us in a really good place is that once you hit a certain stage, like the agency play becomes the most powerful play because I think it's Shopify has like 26,000 agencies sending like at least one customer per year or something. It's some insane number for Shopify. And basically, I mean, if you look at like Clay too, like all the people posting on LinkedIn constantly about Clay, like those are all implementation agencies for Clay. So I think that was a thing that worked the best this year was we started having dedicated agency resources. We have someone hopping on calls with all of them. They're constantly talking about our product to their potential clients. We're sending business to them. Like the agency play is really like the strongest one. I mean, agency goes the same way as I was saying with like referral partners. Like agencies really can have a win-win situation where you can give them some benefit for sending business to you. You can send them a lot of referrals, but also they are getting paid by the client when they close them. So you immediately have that win there. And the way you sort of like empower that is like it still goes to like where the watering holes are. So you want to go to the conferences. There's a lot of like events that only agencies go to. So getting there, booking a lot of meetings, doing a lot of conversations there, like that's extremely awesome. And then as you start to sign up agencies, as they start to have success, submitting those to awards, that's like a very cool like co-marketing trick is that obviously case studies important, but the problem is like if you submit to like an industry award for a case study, no one cares. It's kind of like the G2 people with I always think of like the meme of like the generals with all of the badges. I loved when some of the marketing people were sharing that of like everyone celebrating their G2 wins. Like you winning your own award isn't that valuable. But if you're doing a joint submission with an agency for an award and you win and then that agency is sharing it with all their other clients, that's already a ton of opportunities to win more business. If their client is sharing it with their industry peers, a ton of reach. So there's a lot of these things where it starts with partnerships, but really it's like the co-marketing amplification is what reaches like whole ICP segments that are perfect for you in an authentic way, which as we know with like the current world and AI and everything else, like you're trying to figure out like what is that authentic way that I can get in front of these people as much as possible and be top of mind.
You mentioned AI. What is your appetite for AI?
I like AI as just a thing that makes processes that we don't want to do easy. So we do a lot of fireside chats with partners and publishers and customers. And as soon as we do that, it immediately becomes an AI transcript. That's a blog next to the fireside chat. Unique content takes way less time from like our content team. So I love that play. It's just like we always have a full piece of content. And then obviously like the transcripts and product marketing research of Gong or Fathom to just find out every time a product's mentioned or a feature's mentioned. That's awesome for like product launches.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about how you use that. You're looking for people that are mentioning things that they want, or like to track a new thing, adoption of a new thing that you launched.
Yeah, both. So we have a couple like we're at the stage where we have to start releasing more products, and that's been a transition this year to sort of like actually getting the product team towards like a single platform to a lot more upsells and modules. So our product marketing to really push these extra upsell modules is in the early days, but it's awesome. Then Fathom, like we have a media buying package coming out. We can just see like, okay, when did like what is every conversation customer success has where media buying comes up? What were they saying there? What was an exact quote? And now as we're doing these launches, we can basically ask for permission of like that quote from a customer during their conversation and then use those quotes on our pitch. We have a like a full understanding of like what people are actually asking for. It's like super easy hack and like we're already using Fathom for everything anyway because it's just nice to have those like transcripts for sharing internally.
Yeah. I think there's a huge play in the transcripts, like being able to take transcripts from, here's an example. We do 50 to 60 episodes of this podcast every year, right? I can take all the transcripts from this podcast and get summaries, write newsletters, write articles. I think there's so much knowledge stored internally in a company, like having the transcripts from all of your internal meetings and be able to use AI to like pull out themes and patterns. I mean, man, if I had some of this stuff years ago, like, hey, we're going to launch it, we're going to do a new product launch. And like, I just did an hour meeting with the VP of product, and I'm like using like a voice recorder on my phone and trying to take notes, versus if I could just shut up and just like, track all that stuff. And then the tools that are available to like product marketers to understand adoption of these things, like product marketing has forever been kind of a mystery role where it's like tough to measure the success of that. But hey, if we did this, then we got all these customer calls and we can see how many people are actually talking about this feature. Super powerful.
Yeah, we've been building a lot of battle cards with that too. It's just like, okay, look at every call that every salesperson's ever had on Gong for mentioning his competitor. What is everything that people liked about it? What is everyone people didn't like about it? It's amazing for like,
Do you do that? Do you do that in Gong? Or is that or you do that you like you export those transcripts and put them in another tool, or is it all something you can do in Gong?
you just, I mean, the way we're doing a lot more simple, which is just like you find it in the transcript, you grab that quote, you pop it into a like spreadsheet where we have everything that people liked and disliked about it. And then our product marketers sort of broken those out into different segments of like, here's the details that people know about this competitor. Here's what people like about them, what they hate about them. Here's what G2 reviews say about them. It's a super helpful thing for the rest of the team to understand exactly like where we are in versus the market.
Do you report to the CEO, founder CEO?
Yeah, I report to CEO.
Okay, let's talk about that relationship as we wrap up. What do they care about? What have you learned reporting to the CEO, especially as a company's growing fast? Just any overall lessons about like, your path to SVP of marketing, running marketing, managing up. What should the CEO know or not know? Level of details to get involved with. Like, what's your relationship as it relates to marketing with the CEO?
Yeah, we're a very transparent company, so everyone on the entire company knows exact revenue, where we're at, how many customers we have. So we keep regular updates every quarter on that, and then we do leadership meetings every quarter where we go through every single topic over 8 hours in a very like sometimes heated discussion about different things we need to resolve, etc. So we have a very healthy thing as a whole there already, but then like I'm in a nice situation, which is like we were a remote company to start. Now we move toward that spoke hybrid model where we have a bunch of different hubs in different cities across like US and Europe and Canada. Wherever our customers are, we have sort of like hubs there. And the CEO and the COO are both based here. And so they actually come to my co-working office on Tuesdays, which is makes it super easy to handle. And then in terms of relationships, so one thing I really admire about our CEO is like he's very much like if I'm dead tomorrow, like this company should still run well. So he's very good at like the delegation and just making sure that every person builds their own like accountability and sets their own metrics and makes sure they do it really well. And at the end of the day, like all the company cares about in the leadership is like revenue and customers, like leads, they're nice. Pipeline, it's nice, but at the end of the day, we're looking at what drove customers and working backwards. So it's like, okay, the customers we closed in November, what were the sources that drove them? What influenced them? Like what strategies are working? And that's how we do the planning. So it's very revenue focused.
And how do you set goals for marketing for the company?
Yeah. So I think with the way that I do like the strategy for that is just sort of like what are the big picture things that we need to solve for and just like what is sort of missing, where do we see levers? In this case, like I was mentioning, like the agency side has really like taken off. So we're really putting a lot of resources in that. We have a affiliate marketplace. So we have that team that we're putting a lot of resources into figuring out which both of those will drive a lot of referrals. So we also have to figure out like not only how do we grow agency and marketplace publishers, but also have the right sources to get referrals out of them in an authentic way, which is like, hey, who can you send us? So yeah, like that's one piece, which is just sort of like what's working for this year. What sort of resources do we have that we're not really like leveraging enough? So we have like a big like certification process. How can we sort of use that to get the people that get certified into large brand companies so that we can start getting a toehold into winning those companies. So it's sort of like what other resources do we have internally and just sort of like what is working. Like paid ads was working way better than I realized when we actually did the numbers. So how do we scale that up? So that's sort of like the big picture. And then at this point, I have all of the sort of team leads coming up with their strategies. And a lot of it is also just making sure that we are doing pattern matching. So, like, what is the skill set of the team? Let's have them focus on that. And how do we cut all the work that isn't driving, like, isn't a good fit for that? Like, a lot of this stuff is like telling the team to stop doing stuff because they'll take on too many things. And I say, like, no, that doesn't matter. Please cut it out. So I think that's the other part is like breaking down like the smaller team strategies to like what really matters.
And what's the makeup of the 15 that you have today? We had mentioned that earlier, but just curious to hear how you have the team structured today.
Yeah. So right now we have like the product marketer, the demand gen person who does all our website building, which is awesome. We have we have three content people. We have our product marketer, and that's one set. And then we have the partnership team, which has two people handling just referrals. We have the lead for that. We have the agency team. And then this year we switched over the marketplace team to my side. So that's basically like being connected with affiliates that work on a performance basis. That's what the marketplace does. So that's a team of 5, and they're always doing recruitment of affiliates and then pattern matching to connect affiliates to new customers because with all SaaS companies, like the biggest thing is fighting churn. So the faster we can get that first affiliate generating revenue with them, pretty much at that point we don't churn. So it's very important to sort of like figure out how do we show value as quick as possible. And for us, the nice thing is that can be actual revenue for the user of our platform.
What's the biggest thing you've learned over the last 6 years going from first time marketing leader to SVP of marketing, team of 15, $24 million revenue company? Or maybe there's multiple things, but if you could talk to yourself now to back then, what would you want yourself to know or be aware of along the way?
I don't know if I feel like for talking to my past self, like you kind of just have to go through it and adapt to the data. But I will say that like I always think of like what are the silver bullets that I would take to any future company. And for me, it's just the basic ones are like there better be a good product that people actually like, and there better be customer success, because that human touch is the easiest way to distinguish yourself against incumbents, because any large company, the customer service experience is like the first thing to slide. So you can just, that's a place where you can just put more effort and stand out. So those are sort of the base of like a company that's a good fit. And then, like I said, the referral program is something that I would implement at all future companies, because as soon as you know there's happy customers, and you can even just check G2, Trustpilot, see what people have said about it. And then you should be reaching out to all those people, see if they'll refer other people to you like ASAP, because it's just the easiest way to get that very high. So with our referrals, it's something like 2.4 times higher conversion rate than any other channel we do. So if no one's taking ownership in your company, marketing should definitely own it. And it's an easy way to spike up your revenue.
But the meta lesson is go through the journey, learn along the way, make mistakes, and then develop your point of view. Like you are who you are now because of what you've gone through over the last 6 years. Doing it is the best way to learn, right?
For sure. And it's just, you're always adapting to the state of the company at that time. Like there's a lot of stuff we can do now that works because we have way more brand recognition, which would never have worked in the past. So it's just like, you have to do everything at the right stage too, and not forget that if you don't test it and customers aren't like coming from it, it's probably not working.
Cool. All right, Michael Cole, thank you for coming on my B2B marketing podcast. People can go find you on LinkedIn, you're posting there, and send you a message, and maybe somebody will tell you that they relate to your story, relate to your journey. Thanks for coming on, chopping it up, talking about building out the marketing function at Everflow, and good to see you. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks so much. It was great to be here.